Hey everybody, this is Mr. or Professor Conway. I'm trying out a new software today, so bear with me. We'll see how this works. Let me know your thoughts on this if you like this. But basically, it allows me to record my screen while I'm also talking. So today we're going to go over political opinion or public opinion, and I'm going to present a slide with it as well. Um, I don't always read very well out loud. I'm sure some of you don't, so bear with me, okay? All right, public opinion, how the peoples feel about the issues and how they affect policy. Now, I want to keep in mind that um, public opinion, public um, activism is very important. How you and how us as a nation truly are able to affect change within our government is through public opinion. And believe it or not, the government, especially political parties, have spent millions and millions of dollars trying to figure out how you think. Um, and it's an area that when I first went to my undergraduate school, I was still am highly interested in. Specifically, my areas I'm very interested in how minorities affect public opinion and affect public policy when they're put in positions of, of let's say, in charge of like a department or an agency in the government. How does a minority person uh, affect that organization versus, say, larger population of white male, right? Everybody affects things differently. So I like to look at the numbers to see exactly how each different person affects that agency through their policies, and again also through public opinion. That's an area I'm more interested in. Anyways, let's get to it. So what is public opinion? The definition is politically relevant opinions held by ordinary citizens that they express openly. Attitudes, attitudes and opinions of a large group of people on a particular issues. So where do we get our public opinions? Political socialization, the learning process by which people acquire their political opinions, beliefs, and values. Now, you're going to discover that there's really two types of, of, of groups. There's primaries and secondary agents that affect how you come to your political public opinion. Um, Most, if not all, Americans fall into a large political culture. The characteristic and deep-seated beliefs of a particular people about government and politics. This political culture is different from that of other nations and vary from region to region in the United States. Remember, New York is different than Montana. California, Southern California, is different than Northern California. Southern California is very urban, and Northern California is very agrarian. Montana, we have the mining area, we have the tourist area, we have the agricultural, the ranching area, we have the artistic area. All those cultures are going to affect the smaller levels of a region, much less state level, and then, of course, national. Which is why that, of course, on the electoral college, every state has a popular vote at the state level to elect the president. The president must win 51 popular votes, 50 for one of each state, plus the District of Columbia, in order to become president. And that's why, again, we're going back to this political culture. This political culture is different from that of other nations and may vary from region to region. I covered that. However, Americans are a part of a larger common political culture upon which they can all agree. We're all Americans. We all are concerned about the United States and how it affects the United States as a whole, right? Aspects of American culture. Political scientists agree on three main aspects: the commitment to liberty, freedom, equality, and self-government. Americans are very big on self-government. We want to self-rule. We want to have our own self-destiny. Other aspects that play a prominent role: private property, personal rights, civic duty, right? Varying public opinion. Outside of the main aspects of American culture, public opinion varies in the United States. Importance of issues also vary, especially over time. Examples: the war in Afghanistan, global warming, income disparity, banking regulations, and national health care debate. These are all different types of varying public opinion that some may care about, some may not care about, all may care about. It all depends on the individual. Okay. Underlining values, though issues come and go, general attitudes and political leanings remain the same. These come from people's political socialization, right? So, agents of socialization, i.e., how we behave as a society, right? Definition: the agents that have a significant impact on citizens' political socialization. Primary agents, of course, as you can see here, your parents, families, they're the first influence, schools, and religious organizations. Secondary agents, peer groups, media, and leaders. So your parents and family, they're going to be the primary ones, as they were with me, that sets you up for how you have a public opinion on certain aspects. School, who you meet with, who you talk with, maybe your teachers, how they discuss it and teach you and open you up to different types of ideas. In religious organizations, if you're religious, you may have a specific type of values that come from that. Secondary agents, peer groups, who you belong to, what you like to do. Media, the media is a big one. You have a lot of like Jon Stewart with Comedy Central. He's supposed to be satire and giving the news from a very personal type of viewpoint. That's also a media. Fox News, of course, CNN, all of these different types of media outlets, even movies. Movies are well known for using ads and different types of things placed into the movie to draw your attention, right? And of course, leaders. Your leader could be the mayor, it could be the leader of an organization you belong to, it could be governor, senator, congressman. It could also be an actor, it could be a musician, artist, so some kind of celebrity. And we see this a lot. We can look at like a Leonardo DiCaprio. He's real big on global warming. Not that's a bad thing, but he is, and so he's a leader, although he's also a movie actor, a celebrity. He's using that platform to discuss a topic he's very engaged with. Angelina Jolie, she's very much engaged with starving children around the world, the United Nations. She's in that role, no longer an actress, now she's a leader. All right, primary socializing agents, the family. As I said before, family is, school is, and religion. Your peers, the media, leaders, okay? How Americans think politically. While all people have their own opinions as a result of their socializing agents, public opinion is a collective of those opinions into smaller, coherent, or similar coherent thought. The three major frames of reference shape public opinion. One, partisanship, party identification, Republican, Independent, Libertarian, Green Party, Constitutional Party, Democrat, you name it, ideological leanings, and group attachments. So we'll break this down a little bit more. I've sat on a couple organizations that deal with human trafficking and child abduction, a very specific type of form of it. And so although we may have been Democrat, Republican, or Libertarian, whatever it is, right, and even often from different countries, so different types of political parties within those countries, we've come together for the sole purpose of addressing either a domestic, an American issue, or an international issue. And so those opinions we bring together, they mold the policy we wish to then put forth to whoever we're trying to reach in government to let them know our public opinion. Again, they're very defined. There's domestic and international, well beyond this course, of course. Right? Again, partisan, we're talking about party affiliation, identification, ideological leanings. How do you lean? It could be the NRA, right? National Rifle Association. It could be an ideological leaning because you're very pro firearms, very pro Second Amendment for the individual right, or maybe you're the opposite. You're not. That's fine, of course, but those are ideological leanings. Group attachments. Who you belong to socially can have an overall um, public opinion type of political leaning. When I was in a young adult, I did meet up with my friends, and we'd all meet up and have coffee till 2, 3 in the morning and talk. Um, Varying ages, 18 to 25, all single, trying to figure our place in the world, and there was always an underlining cultural connection. Usually it was art-based and something like that. So one, partisanship, of course, aka party identification. 2/3 of adults consider themselves either Democrat or Republican, while 1/3 remain independent. This identity not only groups like-minded people, but also acts as a lens through which they view the world. So not only do we view the world through a Democrat or Republican lens, but often the world views us through the same lens. Party as a lens, political party identification, shape views on issues not only on their merit, but based on who proposed them. Examples, Romney Care versus Obamacare. Clinton intervention in Yugoslavia versus Bush invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq versus Obama's intervention in Libya and possibly Syria. Of course, we need a president. This is an older PowerPoint. But you tend to understand where this example comes from. We can also add Trump's build-up of aircraft carriers and battle groups off of the Korean area for a while there, right? Backdrop, Clinton intervened in Yugoslavia to help people there that were under an extreme regime, ethnic cleansing, where we could call Bush's invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq. We're using those terms. We could also call it Bush's intervention in Afghanistan and Iraq. We could call Clinton's invasion of Yugoslavia. We could call Obama's invasion of Libya or Obama's intervention in Libya. Often that change in word is the public opinion and how it's being addressed from either a Democrat, Republican, or a specific public opinion group. So that one word, intervention or invasion, we can use that one word to change a negative or positive connotation. That's how it can work through a lens. Party loyalty. While on some level party members reflexively support their own party, I know some people who literally vote. They punch the button. They go to the voting booth, and they punch Democrat, and then they leave. They punch Republican, and then they leave. They hold to the party mission, the party's core values, and that's where they vote at. Others, like myself, I go through each candidate. I'm not party loyal. I'm not party loyal in the least bit. So I go through each candidate and figure each one that I want or the particular topic. So that's kind of how party loyalty works. Political ideology, definition, consistent pattern of opinion on particular issues that stems from a core belief or set of beliefs. While most Americans cannot be considered true ideologues, in other words, communists, socialists, fascists, etc., Americans have ideological leanings of liberal and conservative on the political spectrum. And of course, when we think about that, we have to think in terms of, if we were to go back to like probably your world history class, we talked about how the communists were fighting the Germans. We were fighting the Germans. The Germans were socialists, but they were also fascist. It gets kind of very muddy the water for Americans, but for Americans we hold very, very close to liberal and conservative, and that's pretty much our spectrum. The political spectrum, if we take political spectrum further, which I'll show in the next slide, it can be even farther. So we look at the political spectrum here, we can see on the left we have liberal, and on the right we have conservative, right in the middle is moderate. But then if we think of political spectrum much beyond American, just the political spectrum where every nation falls into that, you could think far left, you get socialism and communism. You can also get the states. Of course, as you move to the left, we end up with the state is in charge of everything. It runs every aspect of your life, all the way through to that of oligarchy or a dictatorship, right? So the more they move so that the government controls every aspect of your life, we go further to the left, right? The more we move to the right, reactionary, we get anarchy and extreme limited government. So the more we move to the right, we end up with less government, the people truly in charge of their life. But at that point, there's no police officers, there's no laws, there's nobody to protect you, there's no utilities coming into your home for electricity because there's no government law saying that there should be utilities coming into that home that you then can purchase to have water and you know waste to leave the house, gas, electricity. So this is where on that political spectrum we can get very far right, which is not good, and very far left, which is not good. Okay. Dividing the issues. In general, political issues can be divided into two categories: economic issues, dealing with money, business, taxes, government regulation of business, government spending, wealth, and distribution. Culture, social issues, dealing with society and the way people live, crime, morality, prison, liberties, and rights. Liberals. Economic liberalism, those who believe government should do more to assist people who have difficulty meeting their own economic needs. Cultural social liberals, those who believe it is not government's role to support traditional values at the expense of new ones. So when we think about this, about liberals and conservatives, this idea of liberals is that it isn't like libertarian where everybody's free to make their own decisions. We don't care what you think. Just do your own thing. This is referring to where that, as it says here, the government should do more. Well, remember, as we move in the political spectrum, we move left. The more the government does, the less freedom you have. So the more they do and the more that they should assist, when we make those laws, we move away from having choice. So as we move this way, which is not a bad thing, as we move this way, we end up with certain things that are just mandated. And again, it's not a bad thing. Right now you're receiving a college education because somewhere said there needs to be a law that allows you to get a college education. You received high school diploma or currently in high school because there is a law because someone decided that people needed to have that, let's say protection, but have that ability to receive an education. Okay, cultural social liberals, those who believe it is not government's role to support traditional values at the expense of new ones. This kind of goes back to the heart of the country, which is where we as a nation, we didn't want King George telling us everything we needed to do. Most people don't realize this, but England is a nation with an official religion. Called the King's Church, right? They have their official religion. So in America, we don't. So in this sense, the government's not there to support any type of traditional religious views because we're an open society. We can choose as we desire. Conservative. Economic conservatives, those who believe government tries to do too many things that should be left to private interest and economic markets. Good idea in some ways. I've often heard, and again, not a bad thing, that we shouldn't have money going to as many welfare programs. We should allow the community to choose if and how they want to provide welfare to their community. Or rely on the traditional where the church would people donate money to the church and they'd provide. It's not a bad thing, but this is where we have that. Again, one side says, well, the government should provide something no matter what, and the other side says, well, maybe we should allow that to be a private issue. Another one, of course, is healthcare. Some believe that healthcare should be mandatory, and it's not a right. It's been ruled for the Supreme Court that it's a tax. So some believe it should be a mandatory tax, so all can have healthcare, and some go, wait a minute, I don't want healthcare. I don't want to be forced to buy healthcare. I don't need it, or I don't need the plan they're offering me. So they feel like it's should be limited. Okay, cultural social conservatives, those who believe government power should be used to uphold limited government. Um, that's again, remember the pet spectrum. We move right, less government. More we move left, more government. Moderate. Moderate tends to stand with different groups on an issue-to-issue basis or in the middle area between the liberal conservative extreme. This is someone who's right in the middle, and they tend to go left, and they tend to go right. They say that 1/3 of Americans tend to be, those that belong to a party. I think it's tend to be a little more than that. I think most people tend to be in the middle, and on certain issues they swing right or left. But again, that's public opinion. Libertarian, statists, libertarians, economic conservative, no government interference, but culturally liberal, complete freedom and rights for all. So they may sit and say, they don't believe in the government regulating any business, regulating the stock market, but also too they say, well, I don't care if you're an atheist, a Christian, homosexual, heterosexual. Um, they don't care. Their thought is, everybody has the right to do what they want to do. Again, not wrong with that. Libertarianism is something just that it's that thought of, too many laws restrict. So they're like left leaning on many ideas, but then very right leaning on others. Okay, statist, economic liberal with government control of the economy, but culturally conservative with strict adherence to traditions and norms. We're kind of moving into this. Statist is also known as a populist. Period. We're seeing this in the United Kingdom where they voted to separate themselves from the European Union. We saw in a recent vote in France. I think we're seeing again a soon vote in Germany. You could almost call a populist vote, statist vote with the election of Trump. So these are again different types of ideas. Group orientations. Political opinion is tied to a person's group or groups in which they belong. Different issues impact different groups differently. Therefore, the political opinion of members of those groups react accordingly. Example, Social Security is important to seniors, while college tuition is important to young voters, but not in reverse. That makes sense, right? Religious groups, they vary on different topics. An example would be abortion, gay rights, welfare programs for the poor, school prayer, freedom of speech, and limited speech. Some religions believe that we should have open free speech, and others believe, we shouldn't be saying certain things. So this is where religious groups also play into the public opinion. Economic class, income and education impact political opinions on some issues, but on others. Typically lower income families tend to be very supportive of welfare and business regulation, and those that are in business or in higher paying income jobs tend to like the idea of course, less regulation. You tend to find more union supporters, and collective bargaining occurs in blue collar and factory workers. Blue collar is in like industrial. White collar would be like a banker, a doctor, possibly even a teacher, kind of depending. Region, well, not as a cut and dried in the past. Think of the North and South pre-Civil War through the 1960s. Region was an impact. Really, region is something we think about. We can talk about periods. This is more history-based. We could say the Civil War, North and South, that was a clear-cut region. But really, a region, it can be defined by many things. It can be defined by the Pacific Northwest region. We're all mountainous region, right? Where you have your flat prairie lands. That's also another region. Regions tend to be defined geographically. Your west coast by the ocean, east coast by the ocean. One's more dry, one's more wet, right? Okay. Gender, men and women tend to think alike in many issues, with some exceptions. Affirmative action, women are more pro, men are less. Social welfare, women are more pro-education spending and welfare programs. Military spending tends to be more supported by men than women, but that's one of the different types of splits there in gender. Generations and age. Different generations are shaped by the political environment they are born into. The shape Their public opinion examples: World War II generation, very civic duty important. Vietnam generation, they didn't trust the government. Also, issues that are important to one age group may be less important to another. Seniors, of course, Social Security, parents, funding for public education, young adults, college debt, right? A lot of college debt. Cross-cutting cleavages. Americans identify with several different groups: religion, gender, age. Identification with one group is lessened by belonging to another. The big thing is this: is there's really no way to truly classify you under one group. You're either by a certain age, certain region, certain state, gender, belief system, language. All of those things they're taken into consideration for your public opinion, especially when they're polling. Okay. Again, so what? Looking at your notes, how might a politician use this information regarding party identification, political ideology, and group orientation in an election? Give a specific example. Now, don't worry about that. But in your mind, be thinking about how those different factors play into public opinion, right? A couple years ago at the high school I taught at, we did a poll. We had it done by gender as well as by age group or class group. And we had different topics, and they had to pick also one person from each teacher from each subject, both male and female. It was like 530 different possibility outcomes we did, and I think it resulted in allowing the students to actually eat off campus. So again, public opinion, it affected the school, and the school body got changed because the administration realized that the students really wanted something different. So thinking about all those factors, how is it different for a freshman? Well, they can't drive, off campus, so why would they care about leaving campus? Senior and junior, they'd like to go off campus, maybe even a sophomore, right? Maybe some wouldn't care because they were in a different economic class and they couldn't afford to leave off campus. Maybe they were on an assisted food support for lunch program, which happens a lot where I came from. So all those different factors played into the decision for the school district to allow the option to leave campus. But it started with all these different factors. Got it? All right. Little cartoon. This is kind of funny. Do you know what it's like to be lied to day after day, night after night? The guy says, "Are marriage troubles?" And of course he says, "No, I'm a pollster." Polling, if you get older, you'll start getting phone calls from pollsters on occasion. They want your opinion. Most people tend to, there's a variance they got to create for the possibility of a lie. So that's kind of a thing that they got to figure. This person may not be telling completely the truth, right? So influence of public opinion. Questions about what the impact of public opinion on governing arises often. How much does public opinion impact legislation? How much should public opinion impact legislation? Both of these questions can be answered as somewhat influencing government. We're going to have those base constitutional laws and amendments and the laws that we have. But through public opinion and how we vote in and vote out people in and out of office, we actually have a large part of our public opinion goes into the laws we make and how it affects the country as a whole. You can see it right now with different types of groups: Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter. Those are two different public opinion groups, and they may later affect an outcome, right? This could be defined again by liberal or very conservative values. If you're in a car, you shouldn't act, in a way that'll put you in danger. But then again, the thought is, well, an officer shouldn't be expected something bad to happen. Two different views. They go back to the values in which you were raised in or thought about. Okay. All right. Limits on the public opinion's influence. Often public opinion is contradictory. Lower taxes, but more government action. Also, the public may be uninformed or misinformed on many topics. Iraq being involved in 9/11 attacks, Obamacare, and the Affordable Care Act. We were told, well, you can keep your doctor, you can keep this. Turned out you couldn't. Or the Iraq being involved in 9/11, we didn't know, or did we know? All these type of opinions play into it, and then you take into consideration news, fake news, what is fake news, what is regular news. Then there's the conspiracy theory. all of these forms of thought, and then they're of course been pushed into the social atmosphere, pushed into the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, right? The internet. Then the public has to make a decision based upon all of this information being thrown at them. So often it can be very contradictory or uninformed or misinformed. Public opinion and boundaries of action. Because of strong public opinion on certain issues, they are considered politically untouchable, called the third rail, referring to an electrified subway rail you should not touch. Social Security reforms in the 1980s and 2000s went nowhere, and military spending closing bases. So they've tried a few times to change Social Security. They tried many times to change the IRS, how we're taxed, or completely throw it out. The problem you run into there is one, of course, lobbyists, and two, when you want to remove or change something, reform something, it can have a large impact on the greater society, right? We remove or change Social Security, that could affect the elderly who rely on Social Security for retirement, right? So again, those are reasons where that certain actions can't be touched. Leaders in public opinion, despite limitations on public opinion, have room to maneuver. Often leaders can take advantage of public misinformation, apathy to push their agendas. That happens a lot in the news, you see that. Leaders can also use their positions to drive public opinion in the directions they desire. They work with the news, they have people who specialize in this. They get you to think this way instead of this way, or vice versa. Measuring public opinion polls, Gallup poll, Harris survey, use telephone questions to sample large groups of their public opinion. Pollster A, person who surveys people attitudes about an issue. Taking a poll to be sure that I'll skip this part, but polls are good, but polls can often be off. You know, a lot of polls saw that Clinton was going to win, and some thought that Trump was going to win, and some weren't sure. And then the ones that were right on their polls were like, "Oh, we did it right." Others were wrong. Polls can be. You really don't want to base everything on public opinion based on a poll, because CNN isn't going to go and possibly poll a more conservative demographic, and Fox won't really poll a more liberal demographic. So their polls are going to be skewed based upon those that look to them for media, for news, right? So mediums include means of communication. Media is plural of medium. Mass media, any means of communication that can reach large, widely dispersed audiences simultaneously. Your major news outlets, and of course, what you see on Facebook every day. You turn Facebook on, there is a mass media, whether it's true or false. Examples of mass media, as you can see, newspapers, magazines, radio, television, internet. What is the mass media used for? Political parties, interest groups. We'll talk about them in a second. Use mass media to get their message across and influence public opinion. Techniques interest groups use to influence public opinion. Endorsements, famous people who support candidates, actors, musicians, other politicians, as I mentioned earlier in the video. Stacked cards, present only one side of the issue to distort facts. We tend to get this a lot with CNN right now, as we see in the news, and also with Fox. They tend to stack the cards to address only their one issue. Bandwagon, everyone else is voting for candidates, you should too, right? Everybody's jumping off the cliff, you should follow. Glittering generality, a statement that sounds good but is meaningless. An example, 1,000 points of light, a bridge to the 21st century. I forget who said these. I think, I'm not going to say what I think it was, but they're nonsense. Change we can believe in, Barack Obama, American president, that's a great example of it's glittering generality. It doesn't mean anything. Kind of funny, some will say, well, you know, Mr. Congressman, what's your thoughts on, say, the Iraq War? And they say, well, that's a great thought, and I'm glad you brought it up. And then they go on to something else. Well, a great thought doesn't mean anything. Let's thought it up doesn't mean anything. It's, oh, well, see, he was addressing the issue. He really wasn't addressing the issue. He was glittering the issue and then moving on. That's how those things can work that way. Techniques, I mean, again, symbols. Use the flag, eagle, Uncle Sam, etc. to appear patriotic. If you don't support law enforcement, you're unpatriotic. If you don't support the military, you're unpatriotic. Um, that's one form of it. My mother, of course, I served in the military and my mother didn't. My dad couldn't, of course. My mom's idea of being patriotic was marching for civil rights. Other people thought that that idea was bad because they were marching against the military and against the government. And they're being unpatriotic. So you have that symbol comes into play. You know, someone draped with the American flag on patriotic, right? In uniform, right? Patriotic. And another person draped with the American flag in protest of the government, still patriotic. Both trying to convey a message, and they use symbols for it. Techniques interest groups use. My favorite one, of course, is just plain folks. There's the candidate walking on the beach. You don't see that there's probably 50 agents around him, all cordoned off, right? Or Bush on his ranch, bike riding. Now I know he does this. It's like a 300 or 400 mile bike ride or something like that, something crazy like that. But you don't see that the rest of his life is cordoned off from the public. Same thing with Barack Obama and anybody really who runs for office, has been a president. You don't really see them as an average person. You may have seen on internet Putin riding a bear with no shirt on, right, and carrying a rifle, right, or a picture of Obama with training wheels and a hat, right, and a tricycle. They're edited, of course, but it's a way to try to defame that particular politician. It's the opposite of we see here, which is, of course, just being plain folks. Name calling, of course. Name calling is very big. See it a lot in politics, especially during elections. You have this, like zombies. They're going after. Don't let the big government feast on your brains, right? And that's one view of it. The media is very good about name calling, as well as ads in general. Interest groups. This is an important part. People with similar point of view that work together to promote that point of view. Again, I've worked with some nonprofit groups on some interest group issues at the state and federal and international level. So that's a topic if you'd like to ask me about, I can tell you about. But the functions of interest groups are bring issues and concerns to the attention of the public and the lawmakers, present interests and concerns of individuals, support political candidates who favor their issue. Economic interest groups, business organizations and professional associations, labor unions, industrial and trade associations. Example, as you can see here, American Medical Association, doctors, or the bar for lawyers. Other interest groups of gender could be NAACP, NOW, or AARP. AARP, of course, being your Social Security group, right? Environmental, Greenpeace, Amnesty International, NRA, PETA. Lobbyists, lobbyists, people who are paid to attempt to persuade government officials to vote in favor of an interest group. Now, one thing on this, though, is not everybody who's a lobbyist is paid. I have been a lobbyist, and I was never paid for it. I just wasn't. I worked for nonprofit groups. I just volunteered my time. I've been offered to be paid as a lobbyist, but typically to be paid as a lobbyist, you must live in those cities where they do all the lobbying, and I don't care to do that. But a lobbyist is anybody. Anybody can petition the government, but there are professionals out there who are paid or unpaid, and they go to these representatives and they push the issue for them. And that's what a lobbyist does. Political action campaigns, or PACs. PACs are political fundraising organizations established by special interest groups. They're able to pull a lot of money together to support an individual. I think in 2006 was when they were passed by the Supreme Court, ruled them constitutional. And they can pull a lot of money together. They can create negative or positive ads, and really there's no accountability back to the candidate because they're not paying for, or they're not supporting the PAC. The PAC is supporting them. It kind of provides a buffer for certain issues. Again, problem with PACs, exactly the problem with PACs. A lot of money can come into the PAC, and they are not limited like they would be if an individual was paying directly to a candidate. That's pretty much the end of my slide. The biggest thing in public opinion I want you to think about is you are public opinion. You have the ability to come together as an individual or as a group and to make an impact on your government. It can be right or left. It can be whatever your group's idea is, and you have the ability as that group to make an impact either on the internet, socially, or directly with your congressman, senator, or the president. And that's the power of public opinion, and it's almost like a hidden check and balance. If we don't like something, not only can we vote them out of office, but we can really show the world or target an audience to say, we don't like this person because of X, Y, Z. We really love this person because of X, Y, Z. And that's where public opinion comes into play. And it's kind of, again, it's that hidden power we have. It's really not like hidden power we have to make an impact while someone's already been elected into office. I hope you like this video. I'll make one more about the presidency, and chat to you guys this week.